was supposed to be an adventure, a thrilling ride on the infamous Yungas Road in Bolivia, known as Death Road. As a seasoned traveler and thrill seeker, I had heard the legends of its treacherous cliffs and narrow paths. The adrenaline rush was exactly what I sought. Little did I know, I was about to encounter something far more terrifying than I could ever imagine. I joined a group of tourists in La Paz, where we met our guide, Enrique, a local who knew the road like the back of his hand. He regaled us with stories of past accidents and the spirits said to haunt the road. We all laughed it off, eager for the thrill of the ride. We started early in the morning, the sky just beginning to lighten. Our group of 10 set off on mountain bikes, following Enrique's lead. The first few hours were exhilarating, the wind whipping through my hair as we sped down the narrow path, the drop-offs on one side plunging into the abyss below. The scenery was breathtaking, but a sense of unease settled over me. About halfway through the journey, we stopped at a small clearing to rest. Enrique pointed out a memorial of a cross and flowers. "This is where a bus went over the edge 10 years ago," he said somberly. 25 people died. Some say their spirits still linger here. A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off. I wasn't one to believe in ghosts. As we resumed our ride, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The air grew colder, and a dense fog began to settle in, obscuring the path ahead. Suddenly, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, a figure standing on the edge of the cliff. I turned to look, but there was nothing there. I sped up to catch up with the others, my heart pounding in my chest. The fog thickened, and soon I could barely see a few feet in front of me. I heard a faint whispering, like voices carried on the wind. I stopped, straining to hear. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and I realized they were calling my name. Panic set in. I had to get out of there. I pedaled as fast as I could, but the fog seemed to swallow me whole. I saw a light ahead and felt a glimmer of hope. It was Enrique waving a flashlight. "Come on! We need to keep moving!" he shouted. I followed him, the whispers fading as I caught up with the group. We continued in silence, the mood somber and tense. As we neared the end of the road, the fog lifted and the sky darkened. Night was falling. Enrique decided we should camp for the night and continue in the morning. We set up tents near a small clearing, the atmosphere heavy with an unspoken fear. Around the campfire, Enrique told more stories of Death Road, his voice low and serious. "They say the spirits of those who died here are restless. They try to lead travelers over the edge, to join them in their eternal torment." That night, I couldn't sleep. The air was thick with tension, and every rustle of the wind sent my heart racing. I lay in my tent, staring at the fabric ceiling, when I heard it again. The whispering. It was closer now, surrounding the camp. I sat up, my pulse quickening. I unzipped the tent and stepped outside, the cold air biting at my skin. The campfire had died down to embers, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. I saw movement at the edge of the clearing. It was a figure, faint and translucent, drifting towards me. I backed away, my breath coming in short gasps. The figure raised a hand, pointing towards the cliff. I heard the whispers again, urging me to follow. My legs moved on their own, drawn towards the edge. I was inches from the precipice when a hand grabbed my arm and pulled me back. It was Enrique. "Don't look!" he shouted. "They're trying to take you!" He dragged me back to the camp, and the whispers faded into the night. We sat by the embers, shivering from more than just the cold. "I've seen them before," Enrique said, his voice shaking. "The spirits, they come for those who are weak, those who believe." The rest of the night passed in a blur of fear and anxiety. I kept seeing shadows out of the corner of my eye, hearing faint whispers just beyond the edge of perception. When dawn finally broke, we packed up in silence, eager to leave the cursed place. As we made our way back to La Paz, the mood was subdued. No one spoke, each of us lost in our thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us, that the spirits of Death Road had marked us. That night, back in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the whispers, faint but persistent. I looked out the window, and there, standing on the street below, was the same figure from the cliff. It looked up at me, and I felt a cold dread settle in my bones. I never spoke of what happened on Death Road, but the experience changed me. I no longer sought thrills in dangerous places. The memory of that night, the whispers and the ghostly figure haunted me, a constant reminder of the unseen terrors that lurk just beyond our understanding. As the days turned into weeks, I tried to return to my normal routine, but the eerie events of that night refused to fade. I would catch glimpses of shadowy figures in my peripheral vision, and the whispers followed me wherever I went. I began to avoid mirrors, fearing the reflection of the ghostly figure that had pointed me towards the cliff. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to research the history of Death Road. What I found only deepened my unease. The road had claimed countless lives over the decades, each tragedy adding to the legend of the haunted route. I read about other travelers who had experienced similar hauntings, their accounts eerily mirroring my own. Desperate for answers, I contacted Enrique, hoping he might have some insight into how to rid myself of the curse. He agreed to meet me at a small cafe in La Paz. When I arrived, I was shocked by how haggard he looked. The vibrant, confident guide I remembered was gone, replaced by a man haunted by the same whispers and shadows. "I've been trying to find a way to stop it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But the spirits, they're relentless. They want something, and until they get it, they won't leave us alone." Enrique explained that he had spoken to a local shaman who believed that the spirits of Death Road were trapped in a state of unrest, their deaths too sudden and violent to find peace. The shaman suggested a ritual to help guide the spirits to the afterlife, but it required returning to the place where it all began. The thought of going back to Death Road filled me with dread, but I knew it was our only chance. Enrique and I gathered the necessary items for the ritual: candles, offerings of food and drink, and a small bell said to attract the attention of spirits. We set out at dusk, hoping to complete the ritual before nightfall. As we neared the spot where the bus had gone over the edge, the familiar fog began to roll in, thick and oppressive. The whispers started again, louder and more urgent, We set up the ritual site quickly, placing the offerings in a circle and lighting the candles. Enrique began to chant in a language I didn't understand, ringing the bell in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The air grew colder, and I could feel the presence of the spirits closing in. Shadows danced at the edge of the clearing, and the whispers became a cacophony of voices, all crying out in anguish. I fought the urge to run, knowing that we had to see the ritual through to the end. Suddenly, the fog parted, and I saw them. The ghostly figures of the bus passengers, their faces twisted in pain and sorrow. They moved towards us, their forms flickering like candle flames. Enrique continued to chant, his voice growing stronger, more insistent. One by one, the spirits stepped into the circle of light, their expressions softening as they accepted the offerings. The whispers quieted, replaced by a feeling of profound peace. I watched in awe as the figures began to fade, their bodies dissolving into the mist. When the last spirit had vanished, Enrique collapsed to his knees, exhausted but relieved. The fog lifted, revealing a clear night sky. The oppressive weight that had hung over us was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. We packed up in silence, both of us too drained to speak. As we made our way back to La Paz, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. The spirits had found peace, and in doing so, had freed us from their torment. Back in my hotel room, I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The whispers were gone, the shadows no longer lurking at the edges of my vision. The experience had left its mark on me, but I was no longer haunted by the ghosts of Death Road. I returned home, forever changed by my encounter with the supernatural. The thrill of danger no longer held the same allure, replaced by a deep respect for the unknown forces that exist beyond our understanding. I knew that I would never forget the spirits of Death Road, their tragic fate a reminder of the fine line between life and death. And though I no longer sought out danger, I couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits had left something behind, a lingering presence that reminded me of the fragile nature of our existence.